In today's episode of Chop It Up Fresh Cuts, I have a new template for you and a fun Chop It Up inspired project to chop up your pattern paper. So for today's project, we're going to be using one sheet of 12 by 12 pattern paper to create 2 pockets. So this project is great for single-sided pattern paper, but you can also use double-sided pattern paper, and I'll show you a few examples after we're done chopping this one up. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off 1.5 inches off of one side of your paper. Now just pay attention to the orientation of your paper. This project works best with pattern paper that's non-directional. So let's chop this up to 10.5 inches by 12. And the piece that we're going to cut off, we're going to save because we'll need that later on to create the closure for the pockets. So I'll set this aside and we'll come back to that in a minute. Next, I'm going to score my paper. So across the 10.5 inch side, I'm going to score at 3 1/4 and 7.5. If your paper is directional, just pay attention to this. You might have to play around with a few samples before you go ahead and use your favorite papers, but I'm going to turn my paper. So this is going to be the closing flap, the front of the pocket that you're going to see. So across the 10.5 inch side, we're going to score at 3 1/4 and 7.5. Okay. Now we're going to make one more cut into this. Across the 12 inch side, we're going to cut this in half at 6 inches. So you'll end up with 2 pieces that measure 6 by 10.5 with the scores already in them, and it's ready to go. So this is quick and simple, and now the envelope or pocket will come together quite quickly. So we're going to crease all of the score marks. One flap that's slightly larger, it's about 1/4 inch larger, that part is going to fold over like this. So the smaller flap that is basically, we scored it like this. So we scored at 3 1/2 and 7 1/4. This part here where the 7 1/4 is, that folds up to create the pocket, and then the larger flap folds over. Okay, so all we need to do is apply some adhesive to this part here, just the 2 sides, to close up the pocket. So pressing in that adhesive, and now if you notice that you didn't get everything perfectly straight, that's okay. We can always come in and trim any excess off the side there. Okay, and now we're just going to close this up. And that piece that we set off to the side, we're going to use that to create a little closure. So I've got this piece. Now I'm going to use a circle punch. You don't have to use a circle punch. You could just cut out a square even and just put it right on your envelope like this. I like the look of a circle, so I'm going to do that. And this is exactly 1.5 inches. Now I like to leave just the tiniest little space on the bottom of the circle so it's flat, so that when I glue it down, it's perfectly flush with the bottom of my pocket. So I'm going to apply just a bit of adhesive, about less than halfway, maybe like a quarter of the bottom of the circle. That might be a bit too much. Just dab some of that off. And now I'll find the center of my pocket. I'll use the grid lines on my glass mat to find the center line. I'll pop on that little circle tab and press. I want to make sure that my adhesive doesn't go all the way up and end up sealing this little flap shut. So I'll get that lined up. And now our pocket has this little tuck to close it, just like that. Super cute and super quick and easy. And you'll get 2 of these out of one sheet of 12 by 12 paper. Okay, so we'll go through this one more time. So this is 3 1/4, 7.5. Okay, the 7.5 piece here is going to fold up to create the bottom of our pocket, and the larger piece will fold over to create the envelope flap. Okay. Apply your adhesive. Punch out our circle. Apply adhesive. Find the center. Pop that on. And there we go. We have 2 quick and simple pockets. We do have a small scrap left over. You could save this in your scrap bin, create a little tag out of it or a little card, or you could make a larger closing flap across the bottom and just adhere a strip here, and then this will become like almost like a matchbook tuck like that instead of just a circle. I like the little circle. Okay, so 2 envelopes out of 1 pocket. All of the steps are listed in the template here. I don't need to follow them because I've made this 500 times, but you get the idea. So the purpose of the template is to show you the steps on how to create this project and then store it away for future. So when you don't have any ideas or any mojo, or you simply want to remake a project without trying to reconfigure the measurements, you've got a place to look for that information. So this is a free template. You'll find it linked in the description box down below. There are some others. In this series, I create a new video every Monday. My goal is Monday. If sometimes I'm a little bit late. I'm really trying to make sure it's there on Monday. But let me show you a few examples using some different types of pattern paper. So this is a single-sided paper, and I got 2 pockets. This one I created out of vellum. So it's fun to try this project with different, papers and stuff that you have in your stash. And so I created this one out of vellum, and I thought it was super cute. It's obviously not as sturdy as cardstock, but it's a really nice, fun way to use this pattern vellum. Another way is to use some double-sided pattern paper, doing the same measurements and steps. And this way, the inside is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I did do a couple of other things here. I rounded the corners on this one just to give it a more finished look. And I also punched out a little finger notch there. I like the way that looks. So those are just some different ideas and ways that you can step this project up. Let me show you a couple more examples. So here I created this one using single-sided pattern paper. I did the exact same thing. Now I thought, let's try to double up the pattern paper. So I glued 2 pieces back to back and created a double-sided pattern paper. And instead of using liquid glue or adhesive here, I used washi tape around the outside edge to close up that envelope. I think it just adds a little something extra, and it makes that little pocket insert a little bit wider, because if you're using liquid adhesive or double-sided tape, you're going to lose a little bit of a space there with that adhesive. So it's not a huge deal, but if you want a little bit of extra space, you can use washi tape, and this gives you that full sort of 6-inch pocket rather than a 5.5-inch pocket, essentially, after taking away that adhesive space. The other samples that I made are pretty much the same thing. I was just testing out different measurements, different papers, trying to get different looks, and these are kind of all the same, but obviously different papers. But I had so much fun just making all kinds of pockets, and I hope that this video will give you some inspiration to get to chopping up some of your pattern papers. And check out the description down below for the free template. And there are now 2 videos in this Chop It Up series, Fresh Cuts. If you haven't seen the first one, I'll leave that linked for you as well. So that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it here with me. I appreciate the support as always. Coming up on screen are some videos I think you may enjoy, including the playlist for the original Chop It Up series with over 125 videos of inspiration to get you chopping up your pattern paper. Have yourself a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!